Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this new video or in this video, right, I'm going to talk on a topic which is more over related to the cloud, right? Now we are hearing a lot about cloud. We are working on cloud, and we have learned a lot of things across the cloud as well, right? Now, in this video, I'm going to decode a capability or the tool sets across the public cloud, basically for Azure, AWS, and GCP, right? And those are the tools, how those tools can help us. Those are the native tools. And also, I have covered one of the third party tool, right? And that tool set is going to help us to do a lot many things, right? So when it comes to do the assessment, planning, and the other capabilities where we wanted to do our migrations, right? So what are those migrations? Or we would end up moving different evaluations, right? For example, we wanted to do a migration from on-premises to cloud, right? Along with the cloud to cloud migration. So what we will have to do, or we will end up doing, is doing the cloud assessments, right? Including infrastructure evaluations and then migration strategies, including 6R treatments that we would be going through, and whichever strategy is going to fit for our needs and basically our requirements, right? So how that is going to be identified. So that's going to be basis on the assessment that we are going to do. And at the same time, we will also work on capacity planning and all other capabilities, right? But to do that, definitely there are different tool sets available, right? So each cloud provider do have their own native tools, and what are those tools, how those tools helps us, and how those tools can make sure we have the right set of details and data. Right now, you might say, okay, you are an engineer, how this information is relevant for you, and how this information is going to help you and your team and people around you so that they can also know and learn it, right? So definitely it's going to be helpful and be important for everyone, not only for engineers, but to everyone who are going to or who is working across the cloud for migrations, and not only migrations, but even if they are the engineer, but still it's going to be the game changer and key information for them, right? So that's what I'm going to talk and walk you through, right? So this is going to be PowerPoint presentation, but it's basically is going to give you understanding and clarity. What are those tools, how those works, and what are the capability of each tool, right? So let's jump on and I'll walk you through, right? So let me put this on the presentation mode, and from there I will share it. All right, so you can see the topic that I'm going to cover is migration and discovery tools in the cloud platforms, right? So including Azure, AWS, and GCP. So, right, so what are those? So those are the Azure Migrate. Cloudscape is another tool that's not a part of any of the public one, but that's a third party tool, right? Our solution, we can say. AWS has its AWS application discovery service, and GCP has their own tools, right? So let's start one by one. What is Azure Migrate? Or let's take an overview of Azure Migrate, right? So what is it? It's a central hub for cloud migrations in Azure, right? How it helps and what it does really, it helps in discovery, assess, and migrate from on-premises applications, data, and infrastructure to the Azure cloud, basically, right? Also, it supports servers, databases, web applications, and virtual machines, right? So it's pretty straightforward and clear to understand to anyone and everyone, right? Because it's not something, or it shouldn't be something like there's a lot of jargon and you cannot understand, right? So that's not the right way to learn as well, right? So if you are doing a kind of micro learning with the fundamental details, then definitely it's going to be a game changer overnight, right? So this is how, or this is what the Azure Migrate service is, right? So how it works now, right? What are the capabilities it has to provide us? So starting from discovery, which is going to help us in identifying on-premises resources using the appliance right? Then we would be doing assessment where we would evaluate readiness, dependencies, and sizing for Azure, right? So it's going to give us the capacity of all of that, where we would do the assessments and identify dependencies if there are any. Then what are the readiness that we should be doing it, right? And then sizing the Azure infrastructure wherever we wanted to put that across. Then the migration approach to move workloads using those using servers and whatever the capabilities that we wanted to move from on-premises, which includes server migration, database migrations, right? All of that is also going to be part of it. And then integrations, right? So works with the tools like Azure Site Recovery, database migration service, and all of that stuff as well, right? So this is how it is going to work. Now there are different capabilities. I haven't mentioned all of them, but these these are the capabilities from the point of view where we would uh, use Azure Migrate to start with discovery and assessment and migrations and integrations together, right? So that's how it is going to be available and be used. The next is real world use case of this one. Now you might say, okay, I know the tool, I got an idea, but what is the real use case or a real requirement where we would end up using this capability or tool, right? So you can see that we have data center modernization by migrating legacy applications, right? Because in the data centers or be it a private, majorly the private data centers, many companies do have their own, right? And now they are trying to do the modernization instead of keeping using or keeps using the on-premises, which is a completely legacy system, and that's not easy to manage and get ready for the market as well, right? Because there are so many hiccups and they have to keep updating and planning and managing the underlying infrastructure, right? Now they are looking for migration or they are looking for modernization approach, definitely from legacy to the legacy data center to the cloud. Definitely that's going to be the one. The second is cloud adoption strategies and planning for the enterprise applications and systems, right? So that's it. That's one of the area. Just a minute here. All right. So the second one is cloud adoption strategy planning for enterprises. Now, what it means is that it means that whenever you are migrating any workloads, any systems, applications from on-premises or private data centers to the cloud, definitely you also need to look at the strategies and plan accordingly. What are the workloads that you are going to migrate? How those workloads can be deployed, implemented, and used for the future, right? So you have to be ready for future as well, right? That's how it is going to be helping in adoption strategy planning there as well, right? And next is hybrid cloud approach for workload distributions. So even that is also one of the real use case and scenario where many companies will use and end up doing the hybrid cloud approach and strategies for their different workloads. Now it could be for financial or banking or could be insurance, or any domain that they are going to use it, right? So that's how it is going to be used. The next is application performance assessment for cost optimization, right? So this is something where we have to make sure applications and systems are performance efficient, so that you are going to make sure cost is also intact. You will not end up paying a lot of cost across the cloud platforms, and the systems and the applications which are being used for different needs and business requirements, those would also be highly available along with the performance as well, right? So that's how it is going to be the one, or that's how the real use cases would be used here, right? Now you might say, okay, we have this and we know what are the real use cases, but if you have to start it from the scratch, how will you do it, right? So as I mentioned, you will start up doing discovery, assessment, and then planning, and then you will gradually build that capability, and then you have to do the complete assessments on each workload, be it applications, be it hybrid cloud approach, be it a cloud adoption strategy and planning for future requirements, right? And even if it is data modernization or data center modernization, yes, that is also going to be the one, right? So this is all about the Azure Migrate one. And now let's look at the AWS one. Okay, this is the second one, which is a Cloudscape, right? So what is it? So it's a tool basically, and it's a similar to the Azure Migrate, right? And it has the same capabilities which you can see on the screen, including discovery, assessment, and planning, which helps the organizations to visualize current landscape of applications and systems, right? Which also enables dependency mapping and migration planning, right? Which is going to help us identifying all of that capacities and capabilities, so that we know what is missing, what is needed, and what are the next steps we should take, right? So that's going to be a start for the migration approach, as well as for the modernization of legacy systems to the cloud, right? And that's what the landscape tool is going to provide initially. And let's just talk about how it works, right? So it's an agentless data collection across the IT systems, which is going to be the application portfolio management with the cost insights, along with it's going to also depend or map the dependencies between applications, servers, and databases, right? So this is going to help us to identify what are the dependencies, which applications and systems are working, and where there are dependencies in between, right? Which is going to support us for the transformation planning with visual or visualization models. And then we can understand, okay, we have some of the dependencies where we need to make sure these are the servers or capabilities, those are still dependent on particular workload, where we really need to go back and understand what is it, whether it is kind of business critical or what kind of it is, and how we can plan for movement or modernization, or be it performant efficient or something like that, right? And let's talk about some of the real use cases, right? So where we have application rationalization before the cloud migrations to understand everything, right? Then understand the interdependencies to reduce migration risks, right? To understand if there are any migration risks, if there are interdependencies between the servers and different workloads across, right? Also, it's going to help us to build a roadmap for modernization and consolidation as well. So it's going to give us the complete visibility and control how we can make sure take the legitimate approach to move ahead by following the roadmap and consolidation, right? And it's going to be used for scenarios where mergers and acquisitions for IT systems and integration planning as well. So that's also one of the real use case which is being happening and being used for many cases. For example, there's a company, company A has acquired company B, right? Now they wanted to do the merger between both, right? So they would have to end up and have to do the assessment and discovery and planning for all of that. And definitely this tool is going to help us in all of that capabilities, right? So that's how it is going to be. Let's talk about the next one here, which is AWS, right? So what is AWS has to offer for this capability, which is application discovery service, right? So what it does, which collects the usage and configuration data from on-premises servers. Then it supports us for migration planning into AWS cloud, right? And it works with AWS Migration Hub for a centralized view, right? So that gives a clarity what is there, what is not, any dependencies or interdependencies, and how it can help us or how we can move ahead with that workload migration, right? So that's how it is going to be the one and is going to be helpful, right? How it works. So it's also agentless or agent-based discovery for server's data, right, which collects the CPU, memory, and disk and dependency information if there are any across the data centers. It also collects, which has a data is secured, stored in AWS Migrations Hub whenever it is collecting and everything. And it also helps to estimate cost and right size AWS resources, right? So now it is going to analyze everything, and right sizing and estimation cost is going to be part of the FinOps capabilities, where we will get an clarity and understanding how we can right size the resources so that we will not end up paying a lot of cost, right? And we also will get an visibility and clarity, right? So basis on that, it's going to details about the everything as in the complete infrastructure that we have in our on-premises environments. So that's it and how it works about, right? So let's talk about the next one. And these are the real world use cases, right? So it's going to help us on the cloud readiness assessment for larger enterprises, larger organizations, and the application dependency mapping for phased wise migration, data center exit strategy, right? Along with optimizing cloud cost estimation for AWS workloads, right? Now you might say, okay, these are the things or capabilities that it can provide us, but definitely whether this has the real world use cases or real capacities that we are expanding or we are looking for. Yes, it has, right? Definitely, whenever you are doing discovery and assessment and planning, it's not something that you will just do the assessment, but definitely depending on the dependency mappings and everything, you will have to craft and draft the strategies for the migrations as well as the transformation that you are going to do in the cloud, right? So that's how it is going to be. And the next is for GCP, right? So GCP has some capabilities and tools, includes the compute engine, then Stratozone and Velocitra, right? So GCP or Google Cloud, which is going to offer these many tools similar to Azure as well as AWS, right? So each tool is going to be available for different. For example, migrate compute engines, right? By using these tools, then Stratozone for discovery and assessment, and Strata for workload migrations, right? So these are the different tools that we can use. Then how it works, Stratozone, which is a agentless discovery for application servers and workloads. That is something which is simply you need to integrate and is going to provide all of that details and then can give us the complete clarity. The migrate for compute engine is going to kind of lift and shift VMs into Google Cloud with a lift and shift strategy or migration strategy basically, right? Velostrata is a streaming based migration for faster workload moves. That's going to help us in that scenario. And then if we have integrations with GCP console for visibility and controls, yes, that can also be the one area that we can bring on and is going to provide the complete visibility over there, right? And the real world use cases over here, starting from your on-premises and private data centers, VMware workloads migration to GCP, application discovery for hybrid environments, M&A, mergers and acquisitions migrations to consolidate IT infrastructure, and quick disaster recovery setup in GCP as well. So it's going to give us all of that capabilities and clarity, right? And based on that, we will get a complete visibility and control over there. Now, you might say, okay, we have discovered 4 different tool sets, including native and third party as well, right? Now, each tool is unique. Each tool has something different than others, right? and they do offer different capabilities, right? So now, if you have the AWS environment and you wanted to move from AWS or maybe from on-premises to cloud, definitely you can use depending on the cloud provider that you are going to use. For example, you are going to use Azure, you will use Azure Migrate. If AWS, then AWS assessment or application assessment discovery tool or service, right? For GCP, it's a GCP tool sets, right? If it is any other tool by end up or by using cloud landscape, right? So that's also one of the area that you can use and capabilities would be available for us, right? So yeah, that is what I wanted to talk and walk you through about these capabilities, which are really helpful for everyone, right? Not only for the people who are working into the cloud or cloud migrations, right? So it's for everyone and it's going to definitely be helpful and give them the learnings about migrations and discovery tool sets, right? So yeah, that is what for this video. I hope you like it, hope you learned something new, and let me know if you have any questions, any doubts, anything that you wanted to know and learn, and happy to collaborate on it. And don't forget to share and subscribe to the channel as well, right? So yeah, that's all, and thanks for watching, and bye for now.